Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. In today's video we're going to be taking the Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro on a range test. Now Ausom does claim this scooter will get upwards of 47 miles in theoretical range, and keep in mind that's based on very specific riding criteria. In fact, Ausom tests their scooters with riders that are 65 kilograms or approximately 143 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not weigh 143 pounds. I weigh 204 pounds with gear, so we're definitely be putting this to the test today, see what kind of range we can squeeze out of this. So what I'm going to do now is get geared up and get us started on this range test. Now, if you were curious how this thing fits in the back of my Mazda CX-5, which is a compact SUV, there you go. It's in there. I do fold some of the seats down to get it to fit nicely, but anyways, pretty decent fit. It is a longer scooter, but anyways, I'm going to stop yapping. Let's go ahead and get started on this range test. And there's the Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro in all of its glory. I'm going to go ahead and get these tires filled up to 45 PSI. All right, so we are off to the races. So for this ride today, we're going to be riding pretty much in sport mode. The interesting thing about this scooter is that eco mode takes you up to like 24 miles an hour. Sport mode takes you up to 35 miles an hour. And race mode will take you up to 41 miles an hour. That eco mode at 24 miles an hour is pretty crazy because I think on both the original Ausom Leopard as well as Ausom Gallop, eco mode is like 15 miles an hour. So that's a pretty big change with this DT1 Pro. Now in terms of acceleration settings, I do have this scooter set to level 2 out of 5. 1 is the least amount of acceleration strength, 5 is the most amount of acceleration strength, and you can actually change that in the P settings menu. So if you hit the up and down arrow on the control pad simultaneously, it'll take you into the P settings, and then from there you go to P12 and you can set it from 1 to 5. I found that 2 is perfect for my needs. This Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro does have an 18.2 amp hour battery, so given it's a 52 volt system, it's good for 946 watt hours of capacity. If you look at the original single motor Ausom Leopard, that there I believe has a 20.8 amp hour battery, 48 volt system, and is good for like 996 watt hours of capacity. So, you know, in terms of fuel in the tank, this scooter does have a little bit less than that original Ausom Leopard. Now, if you compare that to the original Ausom Gallop, that scooter, I believe it's 23.6 amp hour battery, somewhere around that. That's also a 52 volt system, but that gives it 1,206 watt hours of capacity. Right now we are riding off the beaten path on some very hard packed dirt. This should give us a good opportunity to test out the suspension. Now I will be making kind of an off-road video of sorts with this scooter later down the line, so if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, if you're interested in that kind of content, consider doing so, because I'll be posting that in the coming weeks. But anyways, this scooter's got a coil spring suspension up front, coil spring suspension in the rear, and as I mentioned in some of my previous videos, it does a good job of absorbing some of the bigger impacts, but it is a very springy suspension. You know, it is highly wound is the best way to describe it. You know, that's going to be perfect for riding at higher speeds. You know, if you're going to be cruising around at high speeds, you don't want like a, you know, pillowy, kind of bouncy suspension. You want something that's more on the firm side, which is exactly what you get with the Leopard DT1 Pro. One thing you want to be careful of on scooters is when you're like turning on to a dirt path or something, you just want to be sure that you don't take it too fast, because you're on 2 wheels. You've got a high center of gravity, and it's very easy for the scooter to slip out from under you. Don't ask me how I know. I've had plenty of experiences where I decided, oh, let's take this turn nice and tight, and next thing you know, I'm holding onto the scooter but running next to it because I flew off. Oh, that little dip there was hiding in the shadows, didn't even see it. And this trail that we're riding on today, just so you're aware, is about 70% paved, 30% off the beaten path. So it gives us a good mix. It allows us to vary things a little bit. Now, for those of you keeping track, we did just cross the 5 mile mark, and we've been riding for about 21 minutes at this point. It says we've got just shy of 5 bars remaining, and looking at our resting voltage, looks like we're at 54.9. So around 51 volts, we're going to call that our turnaround point so that we can more or less make it back to where we started. We might even make that turnaround about 51.5 volts or so. That way we minimize the chances of us having to walk this scooter back to our starting point. So right up ahead is the pedestrian bridge, nice little incline test. If you haven't watched it already, take a look at my first impressions video. We did some pretty gnarly inclines, 26% grade. Absolutely insane. This scooter tore it up, so we shouldn't have any issues at all whatsoever coming up this thing. In fact, we are accelerating going up this steep incline right now, 20 plus miles an hour, but that's not me going full throttle. That's just me being careful because it's not a smooth surface. Now on our way back down, nice little test of our brakes. Like I said, this is, it goes down, it gets flat, it goes down, it gets flat, it goes down, it gets flat. I think that's to make sure that, people, if they're going up this in a wheelchair or something, that, they've got some flat spaces, or, somebody who doesn't want to also walk up something so steep, because it is steep. It's hard to capture that on video. But anyways, made it right up, and these hydraulic brakes did a fantastic job on the way down the pedestrian bridge. So that's one thing I really like about this scooter, is it's got really strong brakes. I'll do a quick demonstration in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, yeah, a lot of stopping power there. And the nice thing is with the hydraulic brakes is you've got a lot of control over how much power you put into there, and you've also got significantly more stopping power with less effort. So you don't have to grip those brake levers as hard with hydraulic brakes. So definitely nice to have, especially if you're going to be riding around in a place with a lot of hills, or if you're going to be coming to a lot of abrupt stops real quick. Now, when you do stop on a scooter, I highly recommend, leaning your weight back when you're hitting those brakes, because the last thing you want to do is end up going over those handlebars. No, thank you. So one thing that I really like about this DT1 Pro is that it's got very good handling at speed. I never have any kind of issues with speed wobbles or anything like that. It's very dialed in, and I think part of it has to do with its firmer suspension and the geometry of its stem and steering system. One thing I'm going to be doing in the coming weeks is I'm going to be installing those Italian PMT E-Fire 10-inch by 3-inch tires on this scooter. I installed those on the Ausom Gallop, and I'm going to tell you what, makes all the difference in the world. Those things operate nearly silent compared to these hybrid tires. And for the most part, I do most of my riding on the beaten path. Here on this range test, of course, we're riding, about 30% of our ride on hard packed dirt, but generally speaking, I'm spending most of my time on the roads. Now, of course, I'm going to record that off-road video before I install those Italian PMT tires, but popping those on this scooter should be really easy. So keep an eye out for that content. I'll be publishing it probably, in a couple weeks. I'm still waiting on that shipment of those tires from Wired Ride, so as soon as that comes in and, I do that off-road video, I'll be installing those. Here's some train tracks here. Went over that, no problem at all with this suspension. Now, if you're curious about how accurate the speedometer on this scooter is, well, it says I'm going 27. GPS says I'm going 24.7. So it is off 2 to 3 miles an hour when you get to higher speeds. At lower speeds, it's pretty accurate. It's within about 1 mile an hour, but as soon as you go into the higher speeds, you're gonna get some inaccurate data. All right, folks, so for those of you keeping track, we just crossed the 10-mile mark. We've been riding around for about 42 minutes at this point. Screen is showing about 4 out of 5 bars. It bounces around between 3 and 4. depending on whether I'm riding the throttle or not, but voltage, we're at 52.3. So as soon as we get to about 51.5 or so, I'm gonna turn it around because we got a tight timeline today and I don't have a whole lot of time to be walking this scooter back to our starting point. But I think on a 52 volt system, 50.4 is about the halfway mark. So we're giving ourselves a little bit of a buffer. I did mention this in my first impressions video, but one thing I do want to say is that this horn, here, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it and let me know if you can hear it. It's very quiet, it's very high pitched. You know, I don't know who's gonna hear that. Maybe it's because I'm wearing a full-faced helmet, I don't know, but even when I was inside my house pushing on this thing, I was like, wow, that's really quiet. Now, I will say that the birds, you know, a little while ago, I don't know if I caught it on video, the birds heard it from a distance and they flew away. But anyways, I think that Ausom, if you're listening, I definitely recommend putting on a beefier horn. Like the original Gallop and the original Leopard have pretty intense, super loud horns. This thing here is, I don't know what that is. You know, it sounds like, you know, me getting a notification on my watch or something. So just know that you're not going to be getting very much attention from people around you from long distances, because that thing, it really is quiet. All right, pick up the speed here a little bit. On our watch, it says we're going 26. The screen says 28, 29. All right, so I'm showing about 51.5 resting volts. So we'll go ahead and park this, take a little break, get a closer look at the scooter, and then we'll start heading on back to where we started from. So there's a quick look at our trusty Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro. Right now we're just over 13 miles. Give you a closer look at the scooter here. There's our 1,000 watt motor up front, our 1,000 watt motor in the rear, and give you a closer look of this suspension here. As you can see, we've got our coil spring in there. We got the same one in the rear of the scooter. So far, I really like this scooter. I've really been enjoying it. Of course, I'll be putting together a full end-to-end review on this. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, we've still got a lot of testing before I form my final conclusion. But so far, things are looking good. Here's another look at that kind of pathetic horn here. You know, really high pitch, maybe like dogs and deer or something will hear it, and I'm not sure, but it really is a very quiet. May end up putting a bell on here, you know, to get pedestrians' attention when I'm riding around on these bike paths. All right, so that was our little water break, and as I mentioned, we're just over 13 miles, so we're gonna go ahead and hop back on the scooter, head back to where we started. We are now on our way back. Like I mentioned, resting voltage is around 51.5. So, you know, is it possible to get 30 miles on this ride in sport mode? I don't know. We're about to find out. Oh, let me jump into sport mode there. It was an eco. Something to remember with this scooter is that when you stop for an extended period of time, of course it might shut down on you, and you can actually adjust that in the P settings. But the more important thing is that, you know, after a certain period of time, and it's not very long, the scooter will actually go into park mode. You know, so if all of a sudden it's ready, you know, for you to cross the intersection, make sure you're actually in a proper drive mode, not park mode, because there have been several occasions when I went to go pull the throttle and I didn't go anywhere. And so that's going to be really important. You know, if you're trying to get ahead of something, get ahead of a situation, whatever it might be, make sure you're actually in sport or race mode. In terms of hill climbability, I did do extensive testing with this scooter when I was up in Flagstaff, and it handled those 26% inclines without issue. So if you live in a place like San Francisco and you've got incredibly steep hills, this scooter will absolutely be able to tackle those. And you know, it's pretty rare that I get to say that. Most of the time it's like, oh, you know, if you live in San Francisco, definitely should look at other options. Not so with this scooter. It is a hill climbing powerhouse. We've officially crossed the 15-mile mark. We've been riding for about an hour and 5 minutes at this point. Resting voltage is at about 50.5, so right at around halfway. And the screen is showing us 2-3 battery bars. It's kind of bouncing around between those. So we still have a little ways to go. Hopefully we can squeeze it out on this battery pack. But at this point, I'm estimating probably 28 to 30 miles. I don't know. That sounds about right. So we'll see, 28 to 30 miles. So I do want to let you know that Ausom did send me this scooter for review purposes, as they did at the original Gallop as well as the original Leopard. I did cover both of those scooters extensively. So if you're interested in watching that content, I'll include some links in the description below. But anyways, if you decide you want to pick up one of these scooters, and what you see with all these tests meets your needs, if you use the link that I include in the description below, as well as the coupon to save yourself some money, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. So thank you in advance. Now, if there's anything that I'm not covering in my testing that you'd be interested in seeing, let me know. I'm definitely open to testing different things. I already do a pretty extensive regimen with range tests, hill climb tests, speed tests, brake tests, the whole 9 yards. But if there's something that you'd like to see, happy and open to hearing what you have in mind. Back to our pedestrian bridge here, coming the other direction. Still able to make it up, no problem at all. In fact, once again, the scooter is accelerating up this steep incline. So, almost feels like what is seemingly unlimited power with this scooter. All right, brakes do a fantastic job. This scooter does have electronic or regenerative braking as well. You can actually set that in the P settings menu. And if you want, very strong regenerative brake, you have it. If you want weak regenerative brake, you have it. And the way that regenerative braking works is when you release that throttle, it basically runs that motor in reverse, so to say. And you harness the energy that you get from the scooter's movement, which could help recharge the battery. We've officially crossed the 20-mile mark. We've been riding for about an hour and 21 minutes. And nominal voltage is at about 49.7. And I'm showing about 2 battery bars remaining. And one thing that you might notice about those battery bars is they fluctuate over time. You might see 2, you might see 3. That's why I always rely on voltage. All right, we are back off the beaten path. So we've officially crossed the 25-mile mark. We've been riding for about an hour and 42 minutes. Voltage is showing about 48.1. And we've got 2 battery bars remaining on the screen. So we're definitely making for good range here. We'll see how things end up, of course, but so far, this scooter is a very smooth riding platform. I'm really, really impressed by it. The suspension is nice and firm. It does a good job of absorbing impact. You're able to do some nice carves on this scooter, even at speed. Those hybrid tires really are grippy, both on and off the beaten path. They are a little noisy, but that's to be expected with all these hybrid tires. Like I mentioned, we'll be testing out those Italian PMT tires. I did put in an order for those. They're not cheap. They're like 85 bucks a tire. If you're looking for something to cruise around on, carve up the streets, this Leopard DT1 Pro definitely fits the bill. All right, folks, so it looks like we are at the end of the battery. It's blinking. It's limiting our speed. We are at about 42.1 resting volts. So it looks like we are pretty much drained. So I'm gonna see if we can go for about another 15 yards or so, and we'll, now that's throttle all the way in. And we are done, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the battery. Let's see what we ended up with range-wise. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our range test with the Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro. On this particular ride, we were able to get 28.62 miles of range, riding around in sport mode with acceleration setting set to 2 out of 5. We had an average moving speed of 17.2 miles an hour, a top speed of 28.6 miles an hour. We had 348 feet of elevation gain, and we were riding for about an hour and 55 minutes. So how does this compare to the other scooters? Well, the Ausom Leopard, at least the original one with the 20.8 amp hour and single motor, was able to get 35 miles of range. The Ausom Gallop with the biggest battery of them all was able to get 32 miles of range. And then of course the Ausom Leopard DT1 Pro was able to get about 28.6 miles of range. And it happens to have the smallest battery at 18.2 amp hours. It's got a 52 volt system, 946 watt hours of capacity. So the smallest of the entire lineup. So overall, really impressed with the range that we were able to get on this. Right around my estimates, I said between 28 and 30. We're almost in the middle of that. And so if you want to pick one of these scooters up, I'll include a link in the description below, as well as a coupon code to help drop the price a little bit for you. And if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, happy to address those. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.